Welcome to In the Community with Tiffany K.
And we're back within the community. I'm Tiffany K, and I have Emily, attorney with Allen and Allen, back with me. Emily, I love talking with you. You're always a good time. How are you today?
Tiffany, so excited to be back. How are you?
I am doing well, and I think we're going to have a lot of really good information for our audience, especially when it comes to when you need a lawyer, when do you know you need a lawyer, and what to do about it. We're also going to talk about hometown heroes, too. That's going to come on later on in the show. But, Emily, I do want to talk to you about this because there have been many situations that I've actually had friends in that they've either gotten in an accident or, there's some situation with law enforcement and they don't know whether or not they need a lawyer or how they even go about that. So let's start at the beginning. When should someone call a personal injury attorney?
So I love this question. I love this topic. Obviously, I'm a personal injury attorney, so I've dedicated my career to this. But beyond that, I love this question because it is a question that I get all the time, even outside the context of my profession. So look, to really just cut it down to the bare essentials, you should call a personal injury attorney if you believe that you've been injured through no fault of your own, right? And when I say you believe, that's an important distinction because there are situations where not everybody, you might not be 100% sure if you are at fault, or you might not be 100% sure if there is an actual viable claim that you have. And that's my point, is that you should always call just to be safe. So we don't charge, and the vast majority, if not all personal injury attorneys, don't charge for a consultation, right? This isn't a situation where you got to shell out some cash to talk to someone. In fact, on a regular basis, I'll talk to clients or potential clients who have a question, who are involved in the situation, that are unsure if they need help or if they have a claim, and that's exactly what we're here to do. We're not going to tell you got a case if you don't, and if you do have a case, we're going to walk through what options are available to you. But again, at the end of the day, it doesn't just have to be like a clear rear-end collision. That case or that situation would certainly warrant a phone call, of course. But there's more complicated situations as well. But the point is, at the end of the day, unfortunately, it's a complicated area of the law. And so to really be able to be confident that you have all the information and you've made the right decision for yourself, all you got to do is pick up the phone call.
And would you say those consultation calls are also a great way for someone to figure out if they really need an attorney? I know there's certain cases where people say, oh, I don't need one, I'll just go into it and find themselves in trouble. But I think that consultation is great. Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's inherent in all of our phone calls. In fact, I'll tell clients on a regular basis, like, look, you've got a personal injury case, but if a client comes to me and they've already got a really, really good offer on the table, and through my analysis and those questions that we ask at the first meeting, if I, come to the determination that they essentially are in a better position already than I would be if I got involved in the case, then that's something that I'm going to tell you. And of course, we're never going to take a case that we think would be putting you in a worse position or the client in a worse position. So yeah, these are all questions that need to be asked at the initial consultation, all questions that you're entitled to an answer to. And those are questions that we deal with on a regular basis.
And, speaking of questions that need to be asked at a first consultation, can you give us an example of some of those that maybe people aren't aware of so that if they ever need a personal injury attorney, they should be asking when looking for one?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, of course. In fact, if you go to allenandallen.com and you click attorneys, you scroll down to my name, I've got several different blogs I've written on this issue because it really is something I'm quite passionate about. And it's like, look, when you're meeting with someone to determine if this is someone who you want to represent you for a personal injury case, I mean, that's a big deal, right? Because inherent in this whole process are complications and red tape and delays. All that's inherent, thanks largely to the insurance company who doesn't want to make things easy. But at the end of the day, I mean, the point is that, you could be buckling up and getting in the car, metaphorically speaking, with someone that you could be working with for 6 months, a year, 2 years, maybe even more, depending on the complications inherent in the case, right? So you need to be confident and secure in the decision, and that a huge part of that is the personal injury attorney that you're going to hire. So I tell my clients all the time, if you're asking around, there's a lot of things that you need to know. So ask how many updates the attorney plans on giving you. Who are your points of contact, right? What are the best times for you to reach out to the attorney to figure out if there's anything you need to do or any questions that you may have? I mean, asking about the general process, expected timeline. All of that kind of stuff is really, really important just to make sure that the client has a good understanding of what's coming down the line and the expectations that are in place. That's just kind of, on a conceptual level, but just a quick tip for those who are going around to personal injury firms. always ask about the fee. The fee is always standard, 1/3, at least it should be 1/3 standard. But a lot of firms will put in their contracts or their retainer that the fee will actually increase to 40% if a lawsuit is filed. So keep an eye out for that. We don't do that at Allen & Allen. We pride ourselves on being trial attorneys, and so we don't want to disincentivize people coming to our firm for having to file a lawsuit, because we do it all the time. But that's something to keep an eye out on a regular basis. But other than that, really just making sure you're comfortable with the person that you're talking to. And a lot of the times that can just boil down to kind of a feeling, right? Just the vibe that you get from the person that you talk to. So just making sure you're comfortable with the situation is the most important thing.
And, you were just talking about fees, and I want to jump into that a little bit. What if someone does need an attorney, or they think they need the help with that, but they can't really afford it? Where should they go from there?
Great question. So I get this question a lot. So look, this is a situation where you're hiring an attorney to represent you in, like, let's say, for example, a criminal matter. Let's say, you got a reckless driving ticket and you needed to hire a defense attorney to stand in front of the judge with you, paying $500 or $1,000, whatever it is. That's not the way that it works in personal injury, civil cases like the ones that we handle. So we work on what's called a contingency fee basis, which means the fee that the firm gets paid from your case is contingent upon a recovery. So put it simply, just to get down to it, you don't pay us anything. All right, the fee that's taken for the case is taken at the very end, so after a resolution is obtained. So it's always 1/3, like I said, at least for Allen & Allen. So no matter what, the fee itself, the actual percentage will never change. Of course, the amount will change depending on the settlement, but you never have to pay us anything. You don't have to walk in and hand us a check for a consultation. You don't have to pay for case expenses throughout the course of your case. We cover all of that. So essentially what it's allowed people to do is have high quality legal representation at no initial cost, or really no cost to their own, other than, of course, what comes out of any sort of resolution that we're able to obtain. So it's essentially free for the entire case, and then the firm, of course, will take that percentage at the end after a resolution.
I think that's great for people to know, because I honestly didn't know that. And you get in those situations, it always is at the time when it's a bad time probably in your life, and you're like, man, now I got to shell out this money, but you really don't at that time because it's contingent.
Oh my gosh, that is a huge problem for the general public, but insurance companies love that, right? Because what they'll do is they'll give you a call. This has happened to several clients of mine, where they're in the hospital, right, and they're waiting at Mary Washington, and they've been there for 4 hours, and they'll get a call from an insurance company saying, hey, it's our understanding you were in a crash. We'll offer you $1,000 and pay for your medical bills, right? And they're sitting here thinking, oh, good grief, maybe they don't have health insurance. Maybe they live paycheck to paycheck. They know they're not going to be able to go to work this next week. They know that they're going to have a huge ER bill, among other different bills coming in. And they're sitting here thinking, Lord, there's no way I'm going to be able to handle all of these unexpected expenses that have been thrust upon me through no fault of my own, on top of having to go find and figure out if I need to pay an attorney. That happens all the time. And those situations that insurance companies are hoping that people aren't going to take a second look at, so that they'll just, send the email, sign the release, and settle their case for pennies on the dollar. Of course, again, there's only really one way to prevent that from happening unnecessarily, and that's just picking up the phone and calling, right? Again, just because you call does not mean anything has to happen. If you've got a case, we'll tell you. If you don't, that's something that we're clearly going to tell you. And at the end of the day, that's the only thing I think that people can do out there, is to make sure that they're doing what they need to do and finding out if they got a case.
I'm speaking with Emily, attorney with Allen & Allen. Emily, already getting a lot of information here. Now, one of the questions I want to go over, kind of a curveball, but we have actually had this come in before. What are the risks of maybe not hiring a lawyer, even asking those questions?
Yeah, well, the risk, and to the example we just talked about, with the person sitting in the Mary Washington ER for several hours and gets a call from the insurance company. Well, the risk there is that, if this person's, overcome with all these issues and doesn't know what to do, and they settle their case for $1,000 plus whatever the hospital bills are, well, their case is over, right? Regardless of the severity of their injury, regardless of what treatment they need in the future, regardless of all of the impacts this has had on their life, and it will down the line, the case is over. Once you sign, accept money or response for releasing those claims, you're done. So there's a huge implication of that, right? This is your livelihood. These are people's physical health and their bodies, this is the most important step that we can talk about. So, not calling, really you take the risk of going, like, settling your claims, barring any claims you've had in the future, and preventing any sort of recovery down the line.
And I think that's important because, a lot of times I understand people are afraid to call or they're afraid to ask a stupid question, but there's no stupid questions when it comes to these types of cases.
Oh my gosh, no. In fact, I know we all laugh at that and people roll their eyes and say, of course there's stupid questions. But that's the funny thing about personal injury law specifically in Virginia. I mean, there's a reason why there's an entire facet of law and an entire profession dedicated to this one specific field. And that's because there are an infinite number of factual circumstances that can change on a drop of a dime, right? One fact in one case at one specific time can change the outcome determinatively. So really, there really are no stupid questions. And I tell my clients on a regular basis, this stuff is complicated. I mean, this is going into my 6th year, and there are times where I'm still, certain issues that I'm just like, wow, this is just a totally complicated issue that we all have to have CLEs on, right? We just got back from the annual Virginia Trials Lawyer Convention where we spent 2+ days talking about all of these issues inherent in personal injury work and in civil litigation. So, yeah, my point is this: if we're going to CLEs, hours and hours, dozens of hours, every single year to figure out, what new issues are arising and the way that the law is changing. Well, if we're doing that, then I promise you, there's no stupid questions that could be asked, especially for someone who's never been through this before.
Yeah, better you than me. I don't think I could sit there and understand any of that. So, and it's nice not to be alone in those situations as well. I think that's the best part about that.
Yeah, I think that's another huge portion of it. And, as attorneys, specifically personal injury attorneys, we all kind of wear different hats, right? I'm an advocate in some circumstances. I'm a counselor in others. There's a variety of situations that we're able to offer, at least, any personal injury attorney with, a good foundation, good experience, and a good support network really can help beyond just the mundane surface legal questions, right? I'll have clients all the time, just say, Emily, I don't know if I'm ever going to get better. And of course, I'm not a doctor, and I, make sure that, I'm just telling them in my experience, walking through like what I've seen other clients experience to have been the success stories that they have, kind of hot button issues or things we need to look out for. This isn't just about the personal injury case. This is about helping a person who's been through something that they did not deserve, that did not warrant, didn't ask for, who are trying to navigate a system that is just riddled with inherent complications, including our medical field, the healthcare system in this. I mean, we've got a lot of stuff and a lot of problems that people have to navigate. And so just being able to kind of give them that collective experience and, that hope, and tell them that there is hopefully going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. I think that overall, just having someone to talk to, somebody else to kind of be going through with, it really does help in kind of an intangible way.
And I do want to get rid of the stereotype here, because a lot of times you hear people say, oh my gosh, attorneys, they're very standoffish, or, they don't really, they're not really personable. And you are one of the most personable people I've ever met. So I just want to throw it out there, because that's not true.
Well, I've heard that. I guess it's funny that the vast majority of attorneys, and again, I suppose I'm biased, but, I'm a first generation attorney. I didn't come, my mom's a teacher, my dad's a therapist. I don't come from any other attorneys on either side of my family. I come mostly from lines of teachers. And I never really knew or expected for that to be a reality. And fortunately, at least in my practice here in Virginia, I really haven't experienced that, at least not on a widespread basis. The vast majority of attorneys, at least that I know at our firm and the other attorneys that I've encountered, are really just personal people just trying to help folks, right? So, kind of suspending any sort of preconceived notions that you have about attorneys or about the process. I think that that's really, really important. I mean, society and the media and, television and movies, all of this is kind of, in some circumstances, romanticized and in some circumstances demonized, the legal profession. But at the end of the day, I think we all know deep down that there's a reason that the job exists. And unfortunately, it's not just because we like to hear ourselves talk. It's because there is a genuine common need every single day to help people get what they deserve and protect their rights. So for anybody out there that's hesitant or thinking about it, I promise you, and that goes back to to the point when you're talking to an attorney, if you don't get a good feeling about that person, if you think, I don't know, something's off, you don't need to, then don't hire that person. There's plenty of other opportunities, plenty of other places for you to go. That's really the key, and I'll keep coming back to that, just making sure you're comfortable using your gut, using your common sense, making sure you understand what's going on, that they're going to get responsive answers to your questions. People are going to call you back. Once you've identified that and you trust and you feel good about your representation, I promise all of those preconceived notions will just melt away. At least that's my goal in my representation, at least.
Oh, I'm sure it actually happens with you too, which is great, you know. And like I said, a lot of people are scared in that situation. It's not something you do with or at least that person who's going through it is dealing with every day, you know. And if you don't know what to ask first or how even to start, this is really helpful to learn.
Oh my gosh, of course. And like, look, and I tell my clients on a regular basis, you know, especially after the first call, I say, look, half the stuff we talked about today, you're not going to remember, and that's okay. There's a lot. There's more than we could ever knock out in one conversation or two or even 10, right? That's the whole point of having an ongoing legal representation, right, is that this is stuff that we're going to be talking about and going over multiple times throughout the course of the case, talking about issues as they arise. But again, making sure that you at least get that initial call. And again, if you don't like the person that you talk to on the initial call, or you don't get an answer that you like, or if something doesn't make sense, pick up the phone and call somebody else. Come in for an in-person meeting. My number is on the website, on Allen & Allen website, on my profile. If you click Emily Smith, call me literally anytime. You can text to my direct dial that's on the website. I mean, you know, talking to people and figuring out if there's something we can do to help. Honestly, it's one of my favorite parts of the job. It's way more fun than dealing with insurance adjusters or reconciling health insurance liens. It's the human interaction, actually talking to real people, that gets me up in the morning. So if you ever have a question, please don't hesitate to call or ask. Just tell me who you are, and I'll give it a set of a time to call you, and we'll figure it out.
And Emily, my other question for you is, I know some people are probably wondering, is there an actual set timeline for a case that people need to be aware of, or is it just depend on the case?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
Yes, Tiffany, my friend, you nailed it. It's almost like we planned that question.
Wait, what?
But in all seriousness, yes. In Virginia, there is what's called a 2-year statute of limitations, which is just a fancy word for a deadline. So you got a 2-year deadline from the date that something happens where you're injured. Say, for example, say I'm out here on Plank Road and I get rear-ended right in front of the office on Bragg. Well, I've got 2 years from the date that I was rear-ended that I can either resolve my personal injury case or file a lawsuit to preserve your statute, to prevent your claim from getting kicked. And so I tell people all the time, like, look, 2 years seems like a long time. And, you know, in some circumstances, it really can be. But in the personal injury world, time moves fast. I mean, things go slow, but time moves fast. 2 years could be up before you know it. And inherent in the entire personal injury process and the insurance claim process, again, everything just takes a heck of a lot of time. Getting medical records, getting bills, setting up claims, getting responses from adjusters, getting health insurance claims, all of this stuff takes forever and a day, especially in the wake of COVID. It's gotten 10 times worse. So the point is that for us to be able to do our job the most effectively and I guess as quickly as we can, the sooner you come to us, the sooner we're involved in your case, just the better. It gives us some built-in time. It gives you time to get all of the adequate medical treatment that you need, hopefully, all within a reasonable amount of time to be able to make a decision. But what we need to do to get your case resolved as we get closer to that end. But, you know, of course, hopefully we can get it resolved in some circumstances before that 2 years, but sometimes you can't. And in 6 months, 8 months, even a year, that's a valuable time that could be spent, you know, moving your case down the line. Not to mention the fact that that's potentially, you know, a year plus of time that you have missed on having, you know, personal, you know, insight to the process, both the medical field, the insurance, you know, field, all of that kind of stuff. So I tell my clients all the time, you know, time is very important in personal injury cases, and the more we've got, the better it is for you. So come to us as soon as you can.
Well, Emily, I've gotten so much actually valuable information from this. It's actually making me realize maybe we should all be planning ahead and just having somebody just in case that we would talk to if something were to happen, which I think is important to put out there too.
And talk to your family and friends, right? That's a huge, you know, we at Allen & Allen really pride ourselves on establishing, you know, ties to local communities, and we really can uphold that as something that we really value and hold in high regard in our firm. And I know I certainly do in the Fredericksburg community. So ask around. Say, hey, if you ever had a personal injury case, who's your representation? What firm did you go to? Ask. A lot of the referrals I get are people that have called in about potential cases are coming from former or current clients, right? They're saying, hey, a buddy of mine at work, he got hit, he got hurt. I told him to give you a shout. All of that stuff is really, really important. And again, talking to people around you to see what their experiences have been with certain firms or attorneys, that is invaluable experience as well. My only word of caution is look, every personal injury case is different, every single one. For the same reason that you need to call just to be sure, regardless of if you know for a fact that you've got a case or not. For all of those reasons, it's important to remember every case is different, every client's different, every resolution is going to be different. But I think that overall you can get a sense of, the firms out there and the attorneys out there that have a good reputation, that are able to explain and stay in contact with their clients in a professional, and satisfying manner, all of that. But again, at the end of the day, you just, the answer is always no unless you ask. I live and die by that motto. And so you never know until you ask. And please, 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 never hesitate to call us. If it's not me, call our intake line, which is on the Allen & Allen website. And of course, at bare minimum, you don't even have to come to us. But everybody out there who's been injured in a situation like a car crash or slip and fall, it's worth calling an attorney. I don't care if it's us. I want it to be us, but it doesn't have to be. I'd rather you be represented by an attorney than not represented at all. So that's just something for everybody to keep in mind.
And what was that website one more time?
AllenAllen.com. Allen and Allen.
Awesome. And you were just talking about the community. So let's talk about something with the community. I'm talking about Allen & Allen's Hometown Hero.
Oh, yeah. This is my second favorite topic beyond personal injury work.
Oh, yeah.
Hometown Heroes was started by Allen & Allen, which is a personal injury law firm located all throughout the Commonwealth. We were originally founded, if you can believe it, back in 1910. George Allen, the original Allen, built our law practice really around 5 core values. So that's service, care, compassion, and family. And back in 2010, to honor our 100-year anniversary, we started this initiative, which is really designed as a way for everybody to recognize individuals in our local communities who embody these 5 core values and essentially who have devoted themselves, right, to improving the lives of all of those in their local community. And I'm really, really excited that we get to do it for our 15th year, if you can believe it.
Emily, tell us, is it time to nominate? How do you nominate somebody in the community? What are you looking for qualifications for our Hometown Hero? All that jazz.
Yes. Okay. So nominations already opened. They opened on April 5th and they close on April 30th. So we got 2 more weeks. And look, my favorite part about this program is not only that we get to meet and identify these unsung heroes of our local communities, but that these people are nominated and chosen by the general public, right? So that's each and every one of our listeners who are out there every day seeing these local people inspire positive change. So for anybody out there, if you think of anybody, if you see somebody who's doing good work that you know that they are embodying the deep desire to help their neighbors, all you've got to do is go on to our website. That's AllenandAllen.com. You can access different sites, during our social media. If you go to Facebook, you can access the link. You can go on there, fill out a short little form that will nominate someone. And again, this is not necessarily someone who you see on TV all the time. In fact, commonly it's not, right? Our local heroes in the past have included veterans, healthcare workers, teachers, first responders, people who've started local initiatives. So it's really just anybody that you see that's out there dedicating their lives, their effort, their time, their energy to making the world a better place. We got 2 more weeks, so they'll close on April 30th, and the announcement of all of our heroes will happen via our social media web pages, and I'm sure I'll be back here at the end of June, specifically June 24th, to announce all of our winners. And I'm excited. Of course, every year we do a great series of events to honor these individuals. We do it in Fredericksburg and in Richmond, and we're even going to have a big 15th anniversary party held in Richmond this summer. So everybody will be invited, all of our heroes, all the people that support these folks.
Well, Emily, we've gotten a lot of great information from you today, when you need a personal injury attorney, and so much more about that. Remember, always just ask. It's okay to ask, and that's what you should always do. And, of course, our Hometown Hero, we got to get those applications, those nominees in. Emily, what's that website one more time for all of this information?
Absolutely. You can get our intake contact information and all the Hometown Heroes information at allenandallen.com, to spell out and. And if anybody has any questions or concerns or things they have a case, they are more than welcome to call me directly, which is 540-786-8875.
Well, thank you so much, Emily, for answering all my questions. And I can't wait to talk to you again about our hometown hero.
Tiffany, you're my favorite as always.
Aww.
I will talk to you not too long from now to talk about our hometown hero. So thank you so much.
Yes, looking forward to it. Have a great day. And that'll do it for In the Community this week. If you are a nonprofit and need to bring attention to your cause or organization, please reach out through this station's website, and we will see you next week.